Hello everyone! These video tutorials have the intention to give a quick introduction to Blender for people that already know 3D software and they want to learn Blender fast. This is not a beginner's tutorial, and I will assume that you already have a good understanding of 3D software and 3D and CG techniques, and also people that already know how to move around on 3D applications similar to Blender. So let's jump straight to the advanced stuff. Okay, first of all, I will start explaining how data is organized in Blender. For that, we will look at the outliner, okay, here. Because here we can access all the information on your blend file, basically, or your blend scene, okay. So let's expand that a little bit. So the most basic entity in Blender is the scene, okay, or 3D scene. Those contain all the elements of your scene, basically. So I don't know how to say it. Like so, basically, you can create an entire movie with different scenes, with different characters, different environments, all in one blend file, and just jump from scene to scene, if that makes sense. So this is like the basic entity, and what you have. So if you go here to scenes, we can create new scenes, okay. And basically what we have done is basically we have created an entire new scene, and we can jump from scene to scene, okay. So this is the first scene with that camera and all that, or this object, blah, blah, blah. And this is the other scene that have only one cylinder in this case, okay. So then you have objects, and those are anything: cameras, lights, mesh objects, NURBs, curves objects, and empties or null objects in my thing, or empties. Well, you get what I say. So all these objects are inside the scenes, basically. So if you want to see that, those scenes, we have the scene collections here. So this is not exactly a scene, okay. So let's go to outliner, okay. So what we see first is the collections, okay. Collections are not groups like in Maya. Those are more like tags for objects to check different visual options, okay. So we can uncheck visual, we can check the eye here and they will disappear, but we will look at those collections later, okay. So now what I want to do is change to scenes, okay. So as you can see, we have two scenes, the two scenes that we have created, and every scene have his own set of options, okay. Yes. So on that scene, if I go to object, I have the cylinder, and that scene, the object that have is like the camera, the light, and Suzanne, okay, that monkey mesh, okay. Also, like if I change configurations here, so for example, if I change the render engine here on that scene, and then I go to the other scene, you can see that the other scene keeps the configuration. So I have the render engine if here, and on that scene I have the render cycle. So one of the advantages of this is like you can work, you can composite scenes, so you can have two scenes very similar, render in two different engines. For example, all the effects in cycles when you want a high quality, and then some objects on Eve, and then composite that on the compositor, okay, that Blender integrates. But again, like we will see that later. So let's keep working, let's keep looking at the data structure. Okay, so if we look at this, like we go to the first scene, we have Suzanne. Let's create another object. Let's create a cube, okay. We can click and drag the cube inside the Suzanne, and now like we can move Suzanne and the object is parent to it, okay. So we can easily parent stuff, change the hierarchy on the outliner, okay. But so if we open that Suzanne object, we will see that we have modifiers, we have the mesh, and we have the cube, okay. And if I expand the cube and I click the cube, if I expand the cube, I have some stuff here as well. So what I want to show here really is, so we have those objects, and those objects just retain information about location, rotation, and scale, okay. That's basically the object. So any object have that, okay. So if I select the light, you will see that the parameters doesn't change. This is like the basic 3D parameters for any object. Okay, so if I create one of those empty objects or null objects, it's basically it's just an object in space. Okay, so we only have the location, rotation, and scale parameters on that object. Okay, those obviously we can use for different things. So what's this? So we have this cube. What is the other cube like in green? So if we click that, like we can see that this is actually the mesh information. Okay, and we can access this mesh information. So all the mesh objects have this kind of information. The light object is like showing light information. Okay, so this information, the color of the light, the intensity of the light, camera, like the camera have as well all the camera related parameters. So those are like configuration inside that object. Okay, and we can change the focus length of the camera, blah blah. So all that. Okay. So the importance of this is like we can reuse this information. So if I take this, okay, let's so we have this cube. Let's create another mesh cylinder. Okay, just to keep things simple. This cube is using the mesh cube. Okay, so object cube is using the mesh cube. Okay, and object cylinder is using the mesh cylinder or mesh information cylinder. Okay, so all those vertex faces and edges, like, and how they are connected, this information is here, as well as normals and other stuff, but we can look at this later. We can make this cylinder use the the same cube mesh. Okay, so if we go to that cylinder, we can just change it to use the cube. Okay, so now this cylinder, the object is called cylinder. We can rename it whatever we want, and they are both using the same cube information. Okay, so I have two objects reusing the same cube information. Okay. So this is one of the advantages of the understanding the data structure of Blender. Like this information can be reused, and it works the same for lights and cameras. Okay, so you can create one configuration for the camera and apply it to different cameras. So for example, if I have another scene that needs the same camera configuration, what I will do here is like I will create another camera, and in this camera 001 or camera scene 2, what I can say is use the camera configuration. So any changes that I do on that camera or on the other camera, they will apply on all the scenes. Okay. Okay, so now that we understand that, let's go to that scene again. What we can do now is take a look at the data API. Okay, so here we have access to everything on Blender. Okay, so everything basically, like it's like all the information is here. So let's go, for example, to scenes. Let's check scene 1. We can see that this like frame, like I can change the frame from here. Like you can see I'm changing the frame of that scene. Let's go to objects, for example, and the cube object have the cube mesh original ID. Let's like data. Okay, so that's the cube data. So let's go to the meshes. Okay, I have those 4 meshes, sorry. So if I go to the mesh cube, expand that, okay, I can change the name. I can go directly to every single vertex of that mesh, so and change the location of that. Okay, so as you can see, like when I'm changing that, the cubes on the scene are changing. Okay, so I can go vertex by vertex on this complete tree of information. Okay, so yeah, basically we can access all the information, and some of the information we should be able to directly change it from here. Okay, so we have seen the data API. Like it is worth mention orphan data. I think it's interesting. This is like quite particular from how Blender managed the information here. Like so basically, if you remember that cube that we change, that cylinder actually, that we changed the geometry to use this cube cylinder. So those two are using the same mesh information. So what happens is that we have this cylinder information that now is not used anymore, and it's became orphan data. Okay, so so if we save the file, close Blender, and open it again, this information will be removed. So until we do that, Blender will keep that information somewhere. We can directly remove that information if we want, if we press perk. Okay, so this camera the same. That camera that we changed before, this will disappear. Okay, unless we create what is called a fake user. So if we click here, okay, we could, like, you can see, like, it has the F for, and this is the number of views, 1. Okay, so if you move the mouse here, it will say data block will be retained using a fake user. Okay, so this fake user is basically where you can save stuff that you are not using but you want to keep for some reason. Okay, so for example, if I now press perk here, I will remove the camera, that camera that I was not using, but it will keep that cylinder information. So if I want to use it now, I can come back to the cylinder that I had. It's no longer in that list. Okay, and let's go to view layers. As you can see, my cylinder object that I renamed have again the cube information. Okay.